May Calamawy, I feel this huge smile just beaming across my face because you're here.
I know, this feels funny.
This is crazy. You're back. It's been 8 years and you're back in the UAE. How are you feeling to be here?
It's really bittersweet. Like I find myself driving in the car down Sheikh Zayed and looking out the window, and it's almost like this orchestra starts playing, like these violins, as I'm getting a bit sentimental. And then suddenly I'll see something I don't know, and it's like a wrong note was played in the orchestra. So we stop. And then I'm like, oh, that was weird. Like, what is that? And then we'll just like go back into like the sentimental deep mood. And then like the orchestra stops again. And I'm like, you know what? Screw the orchestra. I'm in a new place right now. I don't recognize it. It's a bit weird, but fun.
Dubai's changing.
A lot.
Well, the UAE is changing, but Dubai is changing at a really fast pace. So I don't recognize things when I leave my house. I'm like, oh, there's a new building. Oh, it's just insane how much stuff comes up.
You're not the only person who lives here who has said that.
Yeah.
Who's been like, I don't even know Dubai. I couldn't even tell you where to go.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's just a little hard to keep up sometimes.
Yeah.
But welcome back.
Thanks.
So I haven't seen you in 7 years. And a lot has happened in 7 years.
Wrong.
And I think this is what we're going to dig into, amongst many other things. But for reference to listeners, you're like my sister.
Yeah.
We've lived together. Mm-hmm. I would say we're family friends, but I feel like we're more than family friends because we have our own independent, friendship and love for each other. But I'm going to sit here today not as your friend.
It's actually Zahid, someone very dear to us, who kept coming to me being like, you have to meet Yasmin Naif. You have to meet Yasmin Naif.
And same, he did the same to me.
And I was like, okay, fine. Like, let me meet her. And then I met you and I was like, oh, do you want to live together?
We're not actually joking. We met in, I don't even remember where.
It was like an outdoor
venue.
Yeah.
And we were with friends.
Thought it was with you.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember anything.
I remember it.
I just remember you were wearing pink shoes and I was like, oh, that must be May. And then about 20 minutes after we'd met, we had agreed to live together.
Yes.
Which doesn't really happen, guys. That's not common, but it's very in keeping with us, I feel.
Also, I have to say, it wasn't like a love bomb situation between us. We just saw each other and I was like, I like you and I feel safe with you.
Yeah.
We both were, it's not like it was perfect either. I mean, we were like sisters living together.
Yeah.
And it just grew. The love grew.
No, we would bicker like sisters.
Yes.
And I would get annoyed with you like I get annoyed with my sister.
I love it.
But I think that's healthy.
It's not like we were obsessed with each other and then suddenly we're like, oh, why did I get myself into this situation?
I found myself to be a little bit obsessed with you over the last 7 years in particular because I see what you're doing.
Well, I feel the same way about you.
I mean, let's just
no, really.
May.
Because I feel like you've really cultivated and called in a life that you want, and you've always you're a doer. You try so many things, and some might be like, oh, you're dabbling and then you're not committing. That's not it. That's part of your creative process. And I feel like
that's really nice
been
of you
like
to say.
It's almost, I've always seen you do something like this, but I feel like you've had to sort of explore. I think you were avoiding it maybe, and you had to explore all these other things, and you're like, fine, I'm just gonna do it.
Well, I feel like now you're being me, so I need to switch this back on you, please.
Sorry.
So basically, you are an actress.
Yes.
You are half Egyptian, half Palestinian. You were born and raised in Bahrain. Mm-hmm. You were born there. I was also born there as well, but we didn't meet until 20-something years later. Mm-hmm. So what else? You basically moved to Boston for university.
Yeah.
And then you moved back to the UAE for a time, which is when we had lived together. Mm-hmm. Then you moved to New York City to the William Esper studio where you studied acting further because you had done that as your degree at Emerson. So you were in guest appearances after finishing at William Esper, which then led you to Rami, which is on Hulu. And one of the best shows I've seen. It's so relatable, especially for Arabs who are living abroad, who are trying to maintain a sense of culture, community, identity, connection to faith. And I just loved watching it, and I watch all of them, and I can't believe you're a lead in that as Dina. And then next was Moon Knight, which is a Marvel series.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of background. So May, firstly, with that background, and now you're back in the UAE for a very short time, but do you feel like you're a different person to when you were here 8 years ago to who you are today?
Yes. I don't really recognize who I was before, because I was a version of myself that was really stuck, and I wanted to step out of myself, and I didn't know how. And I think that I was really also trying to conform into an idea that I had of who I should be. And when I left, I just became more and more myself. I'm still discovering who I am and stepping into myself, but making that uncomfortable decision, which ended up being the most liberating, freeing.
What was holding you back from making that jump to say, okay, I'm going to do this? But you did it. I mean, you did do it, but obviously I felt like there was stuff holding you back.
There's a level of comfort here. It's undeniable. Everything was unknown in New York. Where am I going to work? Where I didn't come from a family where my dad was like, go and I'll pay for everything for you. I wish that wasn't my story. So I knew that it was, I was going to have to really step up in certain areas. And I think I was avoiding that deep down. And I might have come up with many other excuses like, no, I'm seeing someone here, or I'm, I don't want to leave, or my dad's here. I don't know what, right?
Yeah.
You can find a million excuses not to leave Dubai, honestly. Before I left, there weren't many opportunities here, and I was cast in a film, and I was really excited to do it. It was going to be in Egypt, and then it didn't end up happening because an investor pulled out, and I was really upset for a week. And it was, I think that I can be really good at just distracting and really making the most. I don't want to reduce myself and say I distract all the time. I can make the most of what's around me, but I couldn't that week. I realized how I wasn't okay. And that's when I knew I needed to go to New York. And honestly, after my mom passed away, that was probably the most uncomfortable thing I experienced. I was just like, what's going to top this? It's just going to be more discomfort, and it's fine. I can handle it. But it wasn't even that. It's the decision to go, and going was the discomfort, the initial. And then once I started studying, I was so happy.
So what is the scariest part so far of this journey? So that sounded like a really scary jump. To make that jump in the first place was, I'm sure, hard.
Yeah.
But let's say from that point until today, can you name sort of anything that's been, any fears or what has scared you? And it can be, that's a vague question.
Yeah.
But
everything is from my experience. So no one has to be like, that's not real, or for this person, whatever. It's my experience, right? But choosing this career path, when as an actor, you have to face yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you're in class, if you're doing a scene with someone, if you're not authentically connecting in a certain way, if you can't let go in other ways, you have to dig in and question why. And I think that was really, that it leads you on a really spiritual path without noticing it, because you have to discover what's stopping you. We wear all these masks every day.
Is it that you have to discover what's stopping you from reaching a certain emotional state?
You go, why am I wearing a mask?
Okay.
And as an Arab woman, you grow up in the Middle East with several identities, like I stay home, I'm good. And then let's go out and party. And we're really good at it. We could be spies, honestly, And so you grow up with all these identities, or a mask, let's call it masks. And then they don't work when you're acting. And so, and it's also not just as simple as, I'm going to stop doing this thing that I do sometimes, Everyone has different things. Some people laugh when they're uncomfortable. Some people cry immediately. Some people shout when they're uncomfortable. I mean, everyone has a different thing. I now to go back to be where were my masks? It might be a bit that would be a different podcast.
Yes.
But yeah, just sort of facing myself and facing yourself and knowing oh, this is something else I need to look at. It's just, it doesn't stop, but it gets easier. And, or rather than it getting easier, the courage to do it is more readily available.
Yeah.
That's quite scary, but I want to say the scariest part might have been a few. One is leaving here and going to the States to do it. I always felt I'm going to do this, but that feeling of I don't know how, is
but you've
really...
known this since 2000. I mean, when was it? 2010.
Well,
I mean,
I wanted to act since I was 5.
But I'm saying that your dream has been since you were a child. But you've literally been saying this is going to happen since I've known you. And in my head, I'm like, no, I feel this is going to happen for her. How?
That was what I was going through too, where I was like, I see myself doing it, but what's happening in between that? And that's what scared me.
Well, I think that's the most inspirational part, because you don't need to know how, maybe.
You shouldn't. We can't control it, even
Clearly.
if we try. Yeah. And then other scary moments are, of course, really be careful what you wish for, because I'd be like, I want to be on a Marvel show. And then I got on a Marvel show and I was petrified acting with across and alongside actors who are veterans in this world. And so suddenly I'm like, oh, now I need to do the work, right? I need to step up in all the places that I'm holding back.
That's pressure.
Yes, I had crazy imposter syndrome in the beginning, and it was just all what I put on myself.
So what would you feel? Like you'd go on set and be seeing these actors in front of you?
Well, I grew up watching Ethan Hawke, in
who was right next to you.
It's weird. Yeah. It was weird, and I had to act normal. But also I was not normal. I was just like, I love you. And we had 6-hour rehearsals for every episode. We had 6 episodes, and we'd sit around a table with the producers and the director. And it was Oscar, Ethan, and I only from the cast who would do it.
Oscar Isaac.
Oh, sorry, that's so annoying.
Ethan
Oscar
Hawke.
Isaac, Ethan Hawke.
And May Calamawy.
Thanks. And I look back at that time, that was maybe the first month, and I see how I felt so stuck, and I would just watch them, ideas flowing. Ethan could just write up a whole monologue right there. We read through everything, and then we'd say, this is a hole. Let's dig in. Why is this happening?
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense. Blah, blah, blah. And I would just, I couldn't speak as well as them, and it was really all my fears of sounding silly or offering something that's not good enough, and oh my gosh, then they're gonna know I'm so green. And if I once had an idea for a scene that made it into the show, and I had to message Ethan on the side that night. I was like, I think our characters should be together in a scene. Like something, and I was like basically whispering it on. I was like, I would have been behind it. I did it on text, I'm like, how can I hide and say this?
Oh my God,
so that if it's terrible, it's fine. And he's like, yeah, that's great. And the next day, he didn't say I was talking to me. He's just like, I came up with a scene, and it was the scene. And then we workshopped that scene together separately. That was an amazing moment when I was just to be like, hey, Ethan, I think you should say this when I walk off. And he's like, okay, I'll say that. I think
it's incredible that you had creative involvement in this at all.
But that's what the role required. And that's what I realized, maybe a late realization. But when they cast you as an actor, you come with everything you are. You come with whatever makes you you. If you speak 4 languages, you bring that to the table. You say, you know what, I think in this moment, I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to speak in Spanish.
That's surprising to me.
That's not always on the script.
That's surprising to me. Because I never would have assumed that anyone cast would have
that kind of
involvement.
No, but that's what they want. That's what I'm learning. I thought that you get a perfect script and
follow
it's
it,
just
and
like,
that's it.
hey, produce this, materialize this. That happens rarely, by the way. On Moon Knight and on Rami, we'd come in, and every day it's like new pages. So this idea of being at home and studying and memorizing your lines and writing notes. I remember once I had a scene and I had all these notes, and I was sitting next to Hiam Abbas, who plays my mom.
Yeah.
She looked over and just laughed at me. She regularly does that. We have that dynamic where we make fun of each other, but she's just like, what are you doing? And I realized like, oh, okay. I mean, that's her process, and I was quite new, you know, but you're going to be doing a lot of, you have to think quick and move quick and understand the character so that no matter what they throw at you, you know how that's going to come through. And if it doesn't feel good, you have to speak up. Like, you are responsible for your character.
And yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And so and that was what I saw with Oscar. He brought so much of himself and his Spanish speaking, his tendencies, how he moves, whatnot to the role. That's what makes the role. And that's why they cast you. Otherwise, they'll cast someone else. So
that's great. So it's very much about it's not just how you're performing in a casting according to a script. It's really about what you can bring to the table, language, expression, adding dialogue. I mean,
and that takes believing in yourself.
It does.
And saying, I'm going to do this.
And experience, I would believe.
Honestly, I learned experience was the biggest thing, because I spoke to a lot of people about it, and that's what everyone said. Experience. Stop comparing yourself to people who have 50 movies under their belts, you know? And where I started at the beginning of that is not where I ended at the end. But by the end of it, I felt so confident. And by the middle, I'd start to ask Oscar Mitzi, and I'd be like, I don't know what to do in this moment. There's a lot. You're two different people right now, and this is weird. And he'd sit and talk to me through it, and we'd like have a quick moment before Mohammed Diab, our director, called, action, and it really helped me.
Yeah,
he became such a dear friend like that. And then by the end of it, I didn't care about them. I was like, what's up, guys?
Well, so on that note, who's the most famous person in your phone book?
I guess some would say Ethan Hawke. Some would say Oscar Isaac.
Do you want to give him a call?
It's 3 a.m. in New York.
It's
really late, so probably not.
Let's discuss this later. Yeah. Maybe we can just give it a little butt dial or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to dive into your pivot.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about a pivot, which I don't know if I'm even going to know what this is or not, because I don't know where you'd go with it. But so tell me about a pivot that has been significant in your life and that has led you to this point.
Well, I think it's what we're talking about. When I left here at 28 to go to the States, and that was huge because everyone I knew at 28 was getting married.
So we already covered the pivot.
Yeah,
really.
We spoke about it, but it wasn't just me at 18 going, I want to study acting. I already did that. It was I was challenged in that sense to go, I'm really going to go against the grain here. It could fail. I don't think it will, but who knows? And who am I going to be? Because I'm going to be someone who's not what I always thought I would be, maybe, or how my life would be. And and also we don't have many role models. I don't have many role models. I look up to Hiam Abbas. She's worked in Hollywood.
She's amazing.
She's incredible.
Everything I've seen her in is just so good. Succession, other than Rami, but Succession is she's just so good.
She's just so fun and humble, which I love about her. And I'm realizing, so I'm lucky. So many of the actors I work with who are good are so humble.
Yeah.
And she just wants to play on set, make so fun of each other. But and that's how I want to be too.
So do you have a mentor?
I feel like my mentor has come to me in different pieces from different people that I turn to. I've always wanted a mentor,
one specific mentor.
Yeah, where's Meryl Streep? Does she care about me? But she doesn't. But
Meryl.
you think you want that, and then you might meet the person and be like, oh wait, this isn't what I.
No, I'm pretty sure Meryl Streep would be a good one.
Yeah, she'd be good, but she's busy probably. But it's more so that I hope I can inspire people younger than me, because I don't know who I can look at. Honestly, besides Hiam, really, I don't know many people who, of course, there are so many actors that are incredible here in the Middle East, but I'm talking about who went over there, and it's not better. It doesn't make you better that you go and try to work in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. I want to work in Hollywood, and I want to work over here as well. But who've done that and maybe taken a path that's less taken to just go, oh, I'm going to be okay. Because that's a possible outcome. I didn't have really many possible outcomes to look up to. It was just
did you have any? I don't think you had any.
I don't think I had any, honestly.
There was none. You were taking this leap of faith with no reference point. Obviously there were people around the world who had done it, but for an Arab girl your age with your background to be leaving Dubai, I don't know any. I'm sure there's one or two, but
I have One of my really good friends, Dina Shahabi, grew up in Dubai,
Yes.
and she was like a big inspiration for me.
Was that around the same time as you? When she took her jump?
No, she was already in the States.
Oh, okay.
She got an MFA at NYU. Like, she was doing all this stuff, and she was in a movie. And I remember I saw it online, and I was just like, you're inspiring me so much. I want to do this too. And it's just like one of the other pieces that I was like, I can do that. So maybe Dina, I mean, she's younger than me, but like, yeah, I mean, she's practically we're similar ages, I guess. But she has been a huge inspiration for me. And I do, like, you know, Aisha, my friend Aisha Hart, my friend Razan Jamal, who us three were in a movie when we were younger. They've also been doing it in London. So I'm not the only one. But, and they have been, they were inspiration for me. Again, I had to stay here because of my mom. And a part of me was like, am I going to lose my chance? And I think that every time I've had a feeling like that, I've been shown otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which tells you that it's not really there isn't a time limit.
There isn't. Hollywood makes you think that sometimes. People make you think that sometimes.
Well, I think society and societal programming makes us believe that in many ways, not just with work, with marriage, with kids. I mean, it's just programmed into us that, come on, like, there's a time limit and you're not going to be able to...
Why are you so worried about me? Like, let me be on my own time. It's annoying. It's really good that you didn't listen to that time limit, because there really wasn't one. But I can see how it would have been pressure. Yeah, and I'm lucky that my dad doesn't put any pressure. No one puts pressure on me.
Incredible.
I wouldn't take it, but no one puts it.
I think that's probably why as well. I'm sure he doesn't, because it's not in his nature to, but you are not the type to respond well to that.
No, and he's so proud of me now.
Yeah.
I brought him to every premiere I've had, and I brought so many friends to the Moon Knight premiere that even Ethan Hawke was walking by and was like, why is this a wedding? Like, what is happening right now?
It's an Arab wedding.
I'm like, we're Arab. Sorry.
We bring 50 people everywhere we go.
I got a big community of people who love me and who I love.
What my support system.
I also love sharing things I do with everyone that I love, you know, and because I wouldn't be there without anyone. Whenever anyone's like, wow, like, look at what you did. I'm like, it's honestly not just me. It's like when you watch a movie or a show and you're like, these actors are amazing. And I'm like, it's not really the actors. Like, no one is talking about the crew, the people behind who make sure everything is working,
the coaches,
you know, on the ground.
You all work with.
Exactly. Like, no one's really thinking about them all the time. This wouldn't happen without them. The actors are what you're seeing. So we're just like, I'm one small piece of how I got here. My dad's support, you know, I thank him every day. We have such a good relationship because of that. And he can just see through all of it. And, you know, like, he's, I mean, through the expectation sort of thing, you know, like, he laughs at that. And the pride that I see that he has in me just means everything. It's such a nice feeling.
That is so sweet.
Yeah.
And, okay, so can you tell me about a moment or experience on set that you have found either physically or mentally challenging?
Yes. In episode 4 in Moon Knight, we had to do a scene where, the day before, actually it was the same day. I had to, like, pull Oscar in the sand, and he wasn't light. And, like, I had to make it like...
This is why you went through this grueling workout fitness regime.
Yeah, and I was just like, can you help me a little? Like lift up a little or something. Like, I'm pulling you through sand, dude. You know? Anyway, we did that scene. He left, and then there was a sand dune. I don't know how high it was. Like, I'm not even going to try to give, like, some kind of numeric, like, I don't know, reference, but it was a high sand dune, and I had to run down it really fast, and it was a one shot, like, run down, hide behind a car as I'm, like, getting shot, and then go inside it was more of a truck. And when I was sprinting down, mind you, this was around 4 a.m. and it was really cold, and I was not wearing that much. My my outfit wasn't like, there wasn't much on me.
The timings of these things.
Well, they take time to set up, right?
Okay.
It's a night shoot, so you already know there has to be no light, and they need to set up. That always takes time. So you're sitting in your trailer waiting, like stay up, but you doze off, and then 3 a.m. they're like, come on, you're up. And it gets not glamorous. And so I was lucky that my trainer, who's also one of my really close friends, he's like a brother, he was there with me all the time.
Your
he didn't have
trainer.
to be. Yeah, he didn't have to be. He's in London if anyone needs a good trainer. But he would be there with me and give me like a mental and physical support. Like we'd go through warm-ups before doing anything and stretches. So I had to run down that dune and do that whole sequence around 13 times. It was a lot. And I thought I was Tom Cruise running down. Like I was like, I'm so like, people are going to come talk to me about this moment. When I watched it, it looked like a light jog. Like I was like, oh my God, that's insane. I was sprinting down that. Why doesn't it
felt like you were running at 180 miles an hour?
Oh my God. And the sand, and it's hard to run down a dune. First, it's like, don't fall.
It's like running in cement. It's so hard to run in sand.
Yeah, that was one physically challenging moment. And another one was when, in episode 2, in a commune, Oscar and I had to run into a room and like shut these doors, and I had to go bolt the door, and he'd bolt it, and whatever happened, whatever reason, like no one needs to point any fingers. I do tell him it was his fault, but he bolted on my pinky in one of the takes, and the camera was right in front of the bolt. So the camera got it, and the pinky just went in. So they had to like, my finger was stuck. So I screamed, and they had to unbolt. I didn't even want to look at my finger, and then I was like, okay, we're gonna go again, and then I nearly fainted. They're like, can you sit down? And I was like, it's okay, let's just keep going. And they're like, no, you're white, go to the trailer. So I went to the trailer, I lied down, and this is like something.
Have you looked at your finger yet?
No.
Okay.
Because it was like wrapped in tissue.
Oh, yeah.
The whole day we had it wrapped in tissue. We didn't really know what was wrong with it. And I, after an hour, was like, you know what? I don't want to do this scene again. Let's just go in and let's just do it. Which maybe looking back now, I wouldn't have done that. Yeah. I would have been kinder to myself. But as I was like dripping blood, whatever, and I was fine. And it was only when I was on the way to the ambulance and to the hospital that I started crying, and I felt nauseous, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is not okay. And then I found out that I broke the tip of my finger, and it was terrible. I will never travel anywhere without really good painkillers because they didn't give me any. But that was
You're
like a physically challenging moment. Yeah.
That's painful. And like, what did they do? They put it in a little cast?
Yeah, it was in a stint, and they had to stitch the nail back on to keep it in place.
Tiny weenie cast on your
it was cute. No, it was like a huge stint. And I was like, this is annoying. I had to act with it a week later, and they made me this nude color sort of thing to match a shirt I was wearing. So we managed. There's no time to waste.
But in filming, I didn't see it.
Yes, because the scene that I was doing it in, I was having like this weird moment in, was it episode 6? Where I was like getting taken over by a god, or she was like channeling through me, and I had my hands down the whole time. I mean, maybe there are some scenes
where you can just briefly see it.
There are some scenes where like you see my Band-Aid.
Okay.
Like I'm like doing a weird move, and people have taken photos of it, and some people have tried to make like conspiracy theories about what it is, like some fans.
Oh, just let it ride.
Broke my finger.
Let it ride.
I don't say anything.
Yeah.
I mean, the fans do what they want. Every day there's like something fun and exciting to see, especially the fan art. Sometimes I feel so beautiful when I look at the fan art, and other times
it's gorgeous.
Other times I'm like, is that what I look like?
No, it's not.
It's fine. It's fine.
I feel some fans just are wonderful artists.
People go abstract.
Have you ever printed anything that a fan has drawn?
No. Like what, to hang in my room?
No, well, I don't know. You should have like a little book of all this stuff, honestly.
I wish I did. I'm really bad at social media. I was like,
I'll do it for you.
There was a time when I was like, oh, I could have done a post thanking people and putting like really cool stuff up, but now it's buried.
I'm going to do that for you.
Thanks.
Okay. So I have a question about sort of your well-being being in this industry. So what is it that you need to maintain your well-being and this level of career? Like
Alone
what
time.
around you? What do you need?
Alone time.
Oh, really?
That's what I've learned. Yeah, I'm someone who I'm really good at keeping a lot of people around me.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm terrible with my phone. People are like, you don't message, you don't keep in touch. I'm like, I have friends around me and I want to be present. And when they're not, I want to be alone. Like, I don't want to be like talking, right? But I've realized that more alone time is what I need. And that's where I just kind of go, and I feel held.
So what do you do in that alone time?
It's always different, you know. I'm not going to say I used to like meditate every day, twice a day, and that was like a strict regime. And I realized like my spiritual practice was becoming almost and I think discipline is very important for it, like a spiritual practice, but it was becoming just like I stopped feeling connected, and it was more just like I have to do this. Yeah, and that's why I was like, oh, let me find different ways that I can feel like I'm getting grounded. And one day I'm like, okay, I want to go watch the sunset. One day it's, I want to meditate. One day it's, I'm going to sit here and pray, or I'm going to journal. Like I don't have a daily, and I find that I've tried so many things that now I have more of an intuitive approach of what do I need in this moment.
That's great. And I feel they all connect you in some way to yourself, to something higher. But that's, I'm a bit more like you. So it's not a day-to-day precise thing that I do. It is more intuitive for sure.
I have like tendency in my makeup to be a control person. And I have found that the success around me has come in me being more messy. And really not looking at it, because before I'd look at someone and be like, wait, you meditated how many times today? Okay, I'm going to start doing that too. And I've realized to just let it go, be messy, you know, don't be a perfectionist. And I love it.
Well, it's a bit easier.
I'm more creative in that space. I realized, I use that control to avoid having to like go in and be creative, because sometimes that's uncomfortable. You know, it's uncomfortable because I'm like, is something going to come up? Like, what's going to come up? Do I suck? I mean, there's a million things that, right, of why we stop ourselves from that joy. And, it's like, you know, when you're someone who's like, I just like the dishes to be clean. I used to be like that, but I was like, wow, I don't want to spend my day doing admin with like things on my phone, my to-do. I used to feel so good. I'm like, I checked everything off my list. Now I'm like, okay, but when did I spend time with myself? Did I have a creative moment? You know? Did
I do something fun? Did I do something that brought me joy? And etc. But look, it's important to, for instance, clean the dishes.
Balance, right? Balance.
Yeah, clean the dishes. But if a dish has a speck on it, or if there's a shoe out of place, or if things don't look clinical, it doesn't mean something's going to go wrong. It's okay. Right? Exactly.
Well, sometimes you're looking for what needs to be done. And that's when like I've started to go, why are you doing that? You know? Once I came home and I parked the car and I saw a banana peel on the floor of the garage, and I was like, yes, because that's so not me. I would never do that.
It's almost cartoonish. It's like, shall I just go step on it and see what happens? Like, should I just go for a ride?
It was like, whoa, I know I'm being a bit more creative because I'm not like laser focused on so many of these things that I would have been before. So letting go, trusting.
So much harder said than done, I think. I think for people that hold on to
because we don't know all the ways we're holding on. It's not always revealed to you.
Again, that's self-awareness, right? It's like the more self-aware you are, I think you'd be able to pinpoint that. But then to get to that level of self-awareness takes you to really go in and higher your consciousness to a degree. But
I also like being around people who call me out.
You like being around people.
Like, why are you doing this thing?
Okay.
Like, oh, no. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, you're right. I am doing that thing. Why am I doing that thing? And then I'm like, okay, I get to sit with myself now.
Do people call you out? Have they called you out in the past?
Some really close people to me.
Okay.
And then I feel like, especially, I mean, look, we all have it. We're all artists. We're all like intuitive. But like when you study acting and when you do it a lot, you're just working that muscle a lot. So I can feel when I'm around someone and they like have a bit of a thing. And I just dying sometimes to be like, what? Tell me. But also sometimes I'm like, whatever. If they want to tell me, they can tell me. That's that like, not everyone likes to hear stuff like that. You know, I'll do that to people sometimes, but in a nice way. I'll be like, why do you do that? What is that?
When you've done it to me, it's been gentle. You've confronted me or called me out on certain things, but not in a way that's made me feel defensive.
Well, I try
Even
not
if
to
I did
judge.
get defensive, I don't feel like I'm being
We've
defensive.
both gotten defensive with each other, but that's because we were young. I think now we'd be in a very different place. Now I'd be like, thanks. You know, but also sometimes someone points something out to you and you're like, I don't agree with that, and I'll tell you why. And I love when someone challenges me, because then I'm like, whoa, you just gave me a different way to look at it.
Yes.
So thank you. And it's good to play devil's advocate. I also used to be someone, like, if I already knew someone and someone was saying it, I'm like, yeah, I know. Now I'm like, no, I can just say, yeah, you're right.
I think that's
why do we have to know?
Biggest pet peeves when I'm speaking to somebody and they go, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay,
Just say you're right. You're right.
yeah.
I think it would come from me from a place sometimes where I'd go, why don't you inquire? Why don't you go, do you know, like, do you see it this way, and blah, blah, blah. And I'd go, yeah. And then we can speak from there, as opposed to you, like, kind of like now
It just kills the
telling me how
conversation.
something is. That's why I'd be like, yeah, I know, because I'm going, let's speak further. Let's not, like, don't teach me. Like, let's go, like, let's kind of talk about the thing we both know.
And it's about listening, right? So it just also means you're not up for listening in that moment. You want to keep speaking.
Sometimes I have to just be like, shut up. Listen.
No, everybody, including myself.
Everyone.
But it's a listening ear versus a talking.
Yeah. I think the more I do this, the more I'm really like, I cannot judge anyone, because life has a funny way of like you're like judging someone and then you might do it and you're like,
which is normal. And I think when you do judge, when you're in the moment of judging somebody on anything, you're judging them because you see yourself in that person for a minute. You're seeing something that they're doing, which is very much
something you don't like about yourself.
Yes, something that you're not liking about yourself.
Interesting.
Think of it next time. Well, I mean, I think you're the least judgmental person I've ever met, but
no, I
catch myself doing it.
found ways to be like, say for example, I say, I don't want to share anyone else's business. Like, I don't want to talk about anyone else. And by that, I don't mean like I don't want to shit on anyone else. Like, if you tell me something, even if it's like I bought flowers, like I don't need to tell my friend that you bought flowers. Like, I just don't need to share that kind of information. And sometimes my mind goes to like, what am I going to talk about then? Am I going to be interesting? You know, but it's more just, I kind of forgot the point that I was trying to make, but just
judgment.
Oh, so then if someone else is talking to me about someone else, like now I have to make sure that I'm not judging them for doing that, right? I'm just like, it's okay. It's all okay. Like, kind of just like, let me just focus on myself.
Yeah, and just let people be.
Yeah.
Just let people be. I think that's like the moral of the sentence.
Totes.
Paragraph.
I love that.
Thesis.
Just be you.
Okay. You've told me about a physically challenging moment that you've had on set. Could you tell me about an expansive moment that you've had on set or just along your journey?
Yeah. On the last film that I did called The Actor, which should come out hopefully at the end of this year, maybe next year, who knows. That was really expansive for me, especially after Moon Knight, where I worried so much because I was the female lead. I had never done anything at that scale. I didn't want to mess up. The people I was working with knew exactly what they were doing. Seemingly, they probably also had doubts. We all have doubts. Everyone holds it differently. But on this project, we each played different characters. So I had 5 different roles.
Ooh.
Yes. And
That's hard.
It was so fun because I got to collaborate with hair and makeup and say, this is what I want this wig to look like. I want this. I mean, it's my dream. It's just like, and what was expansive was I just explored being on set and not worrying, just playing. I wasn't like.
But how? What got you
Well, I
there?
think it was a lot of the prep that I had done. I worked with a movement coach in LA who focuses on Alexander technique, which I didn't study in school. Most actors study it. And it's just like very good in terms of finding your alignment and almost like who are you from that space. And there's a much better definition for Alexander technique, by the way.
Google.
Yeah.
So you worked with the coach?
I worked with him on every character. We would find an animal for each character, and how does this animal move, and how do they react, and that was a lot of fun. And I remember even just in the beginning when we'd spend time, I mean, it teaches you so much about you. We develop habits in our bodies that we don't even notice, and those habits become comfortable.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of like life, right? But I'd be walking, so we start the session with him just wanting to align me and let me know what alignment feels like. And sometimes I'd be like, really? I feel like I look really weird. This is what I should be standing like. And then he'd tell me to go look out the window at a tree or whatnot. And I have a really long neck, but so something I didn't notice, he started to tell me I do is like, I reach forward like that, whether I'm like laughing with people or whatever. And he's like, why do you do that? He's always just like, let the information come to you.
Okay.
Stand in front of the tree and let it come to you.
Oh,
Don't
that's even like
tree.
very silly example, but you know when you're eating cereal or soup and how we
head
forward to do that, and the etiquette is that you're supposed to bring the soup or the cereal to your mouth.
But then it's a balancing game also, right?
Well, it's messy. It's really messy. But that's supposed to teach you how to sit up properly.
Yeah. You're right.
Sorry, continue.
No. But I mean, I worked with like 2 or 3 acting teachers on that. And it was just sort of finding a way to craft the access point for each character was a lot of fun. And maybe telling myself, oh, you're not a lead, like you can just be free, is something I should do on every role, because I'd be like, ideas would come to me or I would speak a bit differently. By the way, I might be terrible. I have no idea how this is going to manifest, because I left and I was just like, was I the same person for all 5 roles? Like now I don't remember. But I was also like, I don't care, because I had so much fun.
Yeah.
And I really hope that I can, every project is different, but that it did something for me after Moon Knight, because I saw myself having agency and saying what didn't feel right or what felt right or what I wanted to try, like not caring about, a lot of times I'd care about the time that we have. I was like, yeah, I want to try it like this time. I want to do this. Even if I felt like they were like, well, we kind of have to move on, I'd be like, no, I want to try it. And again, that comes with experience.
Yeah, your confidence is growing.
Yeah, it's really cool to feel that.
If you're saying that you felt so much joy and freedom and just enjoyment, I'm sure that translates.
You know what? It's taking space. After Esper, I still I never stopped taking acting classes, and I think it's good to just always work that muscle. Yes. One of my teachers we were in a group class and we were doing a technique he was teaching us, and he just walked by and was like, you don't take space. And he just kind of walked off, and I was like, what? And it really affected me. Like, how do I not take space? I feel like I speak my mind. But over the years, I've looked at where I hide, where I play small, really. And there was a time when I beat myself up about it, but it's just experience. That's all it is. It's like making that intention of, I want to take more space. I want to feel equal to my male counterparts and female counterparts on set, and know how to. Like Ethan Hawke would throw out an idea and everyone would be like, no. And he'd be like, all right, cool. Whatever. What about this? There's no feeling of oh shit, you know? And
self-consciousness or.
No, because that's being creative.
Insecurity,
it's throwing everything in there. So insecurity doesn't allow, it literally shuts creativity. So you have to just go, I love you enough that it's okay. You know, if everyone looks at you and is like, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Ooh, that's a good lesson. I like that a lot. And I feel you have the confidence in you. I mean, I know I saw you a really long time ago physically in person, but we've been on the phone and stuff. But the amount of the transformation that I've felt from you is just so huge. It's just so beautiful to watch.
Thanks.
And I feel that's just going to translate more and more on screen as well. So yeah, I'm excited.
I hope so.
I'm excited to keep watching. Okay. So, May.
Yes, Mina.
Have you ever been discriminated against in this industry from the point of being where you're from, your heritage, your culture, your faith? So do you feel like in any shape or form that you've been discriminated against?
I'm sure it's happened, but I don't have it's happening on a micro level probably all the time based on the roles that I'm getting. When I'm like, can I just play any role? Why are you sending me this ambiguous, like ethnically ambiguous character? Like, why does that character have to be white?
Why do you think that is?
It's just how Hollywood it's the structure of it, and it's the system. And
is it your name? Is it your name? When they see your name, they're like, okay, well, this role.
They'll see your headshot and they'll be like, where's she from? And okay, where could we place her? And it's a very like aesthetics driven culture industry until you've sort of like shown who you are. Now we're at a different place. We're at a really cool intersection where people want more women with agency and they want more women of color. So I'm really happy to be around right now. I remember when I was 22, I met with an agent in New York, and she was like, I had a thicker accent before. I don't even know what it was. It was thicker. And she was like, well, if you want to act in the States, you have to sound American. So you have to neutralize your accent, which is annoying anyway, that's neutralizing it.
But she even pinpointed something that you probably didn't notice.
Yeah, well, I became obsessed with, okay, now I need to know how to sound American, and I this and I that. So I meet people when I travel, and they're like,
you've changed though. I don't really see much of a change, which means it must have been.
No, but when I'm in the States, I know how to sound American. Well, and when I do my auditions, I have to sound that way. And the thing is, a lot of people just don't know the international accent. I tell people, I went to French school for a few years when I was younger, and then a British school till I was 10, and then an international school, and then I was in the States. So my accent is confused, and it does kind of like mold depending sometimes on where I'm from.
It's exactly the same thing.
And when I did Moon Knight, I was like, I want to do that accent. And I realized how small the international community is, that people on Reddit forums were like, is she trying to sound Irish? Is she trying to sound British? Can't May Calamawy do better than that for a British accent? And I was like, no, I wasn't trying to do British. But also, maybe we should have, I did say, I was like, I feel like we should kind of say what her background is, just to, but I'm trying to bring in our version of it, because there are boxes. It's always like American, British, this, Arab. And I was like, what about the Arab who like lived here? And then I didn't live in this, like I didn't grow up in the States, but like grew up here, went there, did this, did that. What about that person? Totally. These are the people that I'm interested in seeing more on screen and that I want to represent more.
May, can you pinpoint a role that you feel has given you space and allowed you to grow as May Calamawy?
I think all my roles will do that for me. But I'll specifically focus on Dina in Rami.
Love Dina.
When I got that role and we were going to film, so I grew up always kind of manipulating my hair somewhere, whether it was like straightening it or using a curling iron to smoothen out the curls. And I'll still do that from time to time, but like that was like how I did my hair all the time. And I remember when we were going to do Rami, I was telling hair and makeup, like, okay, but I like to kind of like straighten the top, and then I have a loose curl, and they were like, oh, you're not going to keep it curly? And I was like, no, I don't think so. And I was speaking to one of my really good friends, Rana, who lived with me in New York at the time. She was like, no, you absolutely have to keep it curly. And I was like, stop. It was like so uncomfortable. I was like, no, I don't want to. And then on set, it was so humid that I even if I tried to do what I wanted to do, it wouldn't have worked. So I was like, oh, I have to keep it curly. And that was something I had to work through, because I still did things with it in season 2, but like I remember in season 1 I went so out of my comfort zone with my hair, and I'd watch it and be like, oh, I feel like I look ugly, but who cares? And I mean, it was such a testament to how beauty is such a currency in our world. And we've grown up in a culture, at least in the circle I grew up in, it was like if you don't look good, I mean, go hide under a rock, honestly. And so
here's your rock.
And the good is like a traditional it's like a look that is influenced by Western ideals. And maybe for someone with straight hair, if like they wake up and it's like that or like crinkled, they're like, it's messy. But that's what curls are.
Yeah.
But I grew up being like, my hair was messy. I need to fix this, and always wanting, and I would notice if I straightened my hair when I was younger, I'd get attention from people, or more people would say like, you look pretty. And that happens now too. If I straighten my hair or like make it a bit, I don't know, like not curly, people will compliment me in a way. And so at one point it was like, okay, well, I should do it because clearly they know and I want these compliments. And then it was more like, no, I want to feel beautiful in my natural state. And the thing is like, the more women with curly hair embrace it, the more that's going to be considered beautiful, the more people will recognize it as beautiful. Yeah. It's how you hold yourself on the inside, really, that like the beauty comes out, because you can see the most like, I don't know, conventionally beautiful person and there's like nothing there, right?
But I love that message.
Yeah, and so that was something that now I have like trouble, like I've become really lazy, like to straighten my hair, but I still have friends with curly hair at my age whose dads will be like, you're gonna go out like that? Like you're not gonna straighten your hair? And I'm like, thank God I have found a way to feel beautiful in my natural state. But it was a journey, especially like, and I know some women with curls like fully embrace, and I'm like, bow down to you, right? But for others it's a journey. And I
never would have known that having curly hair would have been such a thing.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I don't have curly hair, obviously, that's why, but I never would have thought anyone with curly hair to have it as like a crux, you know, like it's a real
you look
issue.
At the West. I mean, we've been colonized. Look at who we've been colonized by. We're naturally going to think that's better. We look at them, you know, and so I think it's time to really look at us. And by the way, it is happening. It's like, it's happening. So it's not like, guys, you know, this isn't a PSA or anything. Yeah. But
it's not a call to action.
No,
it's already on the way.
You guys, like, you know, younger generation, like, you're doing amazing. But I remember in LA, I don't know how much time we have. In LA, we were, you can cut this out. I was at a cafe. No, I was at a flower shop. It was early in the morning. My hair was messy. And there was like a group of 8th graders there. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're Layla from Moon Knight. And I was like,
fanhood.
Yeah. And this one girl with like long blonde straight hair was like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. And your hair is so beautiful. And I was like, now? But I mean, whatever, you know, but I was just like, oh, it's so interesting. Like when I was her age in 8th grade, I would have only thought she was beautiful. And that's because we didn't have many people in the States who looked like me on TV, kind of owning how they looked. But hearing that was like, oh, cool, because I want more women that are younger that look like me to feel that kind of beauty. And so when I went to do Moon Knight, I was speaking to like the creative directors, basically, you know, in the costume. And I was like, and I'm going to keep my hair curly. And I was waiting for some kind of like, no. And they were like, okay, good. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't have to fight for this, you know, but it was really, I had to go through that journey to then be like, this superhero is going to have curly hair.
Well, the first Arab superhero in Marvel history,
the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
like it's just huge.
And to that I will always say, like, I wouldn't have come here without all the work that's already been done and people wanting to make space for all cultures and to be diverse, and for Mohammed Diab and Sarah Gohar, his wife and producing partner, who fought for the show to be authentic, and, you know, for Marvel for wanting that space for authenticity, you know, because it is the smarter choice to do right now in this climate. So there's so many things that I would lead up to it. Me being the first, actually, like when people say that, sometimes it's a bit cringy for me. I'm like, this is just because this is where we're at right now. Like, it's not like,
but someone it's always been available. Someone was going to be the first, right? And it is you. And I feel, own it. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
And now you've opened the door for you, and all the moving parts behind you have opened the doors for many others to follow through. But May, this was amazing.
Thank you. As I said before, I feel like my whole career was just all leading me to this moment with you, to be on pivot.
Mine led me here. I think you just happened to be here and I grabbed you. I'm like, you sit in the chair and we're doing pivot
gladly.
Today.
Are we going to cheers? We didn't do our cheers.
Yeah. Cheers, babes.
Cheers. Cheers, babes.
I love you.
Really far away from
Yeah, seriously. I'm like, that's much further than expected. I love you. Thank you for coming.
I love you. Thanks for
And let's see where you are in the next 8 years.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I hang out with you before that.
Obviously.
Yeah.